My name is Serup. I would like to welcome you to our webinar. Today I will introduce revenue and expense deferrals, a product that helps companies with the amortization of maintenance and service-related contract revenue and expense amounts over the life of the contract. This is the overview of the product. The product allows companies to comply with Sarbanes-Oxley Act. It can be configured to process transactions from any Sage 300 modules, including third-party application, as long as they support optional fields and post transactions to GL. How the application works? It identifies transactions that should be processed. Then it defers the revenue expense amount and creates a schedule from the recognition. And finally, it recognizes the amounts as per the schedule. Now, let me open Sage 300 and show in an example. So how does it look? After the setup of the product, we can create a transaction, and by running a special processing screen, we will defer the transaction, first of all. For example, we can defer a revenue transaction. For that purpose, I will create one invoice entry from order entry. I will start from order entry. Here I will select a customer. In a detail line, I will select an item. For this item, I suppose that this is, for example, an annual support agreement. So I will define a quantity as 1 and amount. Let's say that it is 1,200. And the important part, we need to define in detail optional fields, optional field values required for the application. So from here, I have a list of optional fields. Here I will define. For example, I will start from the deferred from optional fields. I will put in the beginning of January. So I will put 01/01/2020. And the to date, we have deferred to date at the end of the December. So I will put 12/31/2020. Next optional field is deferred period. Actually, it has populated the default value, fiscal period. I will not change it. And the next one is a deferral method. Again, it is populated the default value. It is a straight line deferral method. I will leave it as it is. I will not fill the last template one. I will talk about it a little bit later. So after this defining optional field values, I'm closing pop-up screen and posting the transaction. To make the transaction flow fast, I will immediately ship the quantity and invoice it during the posting order. So when I click the post button, the invoice will be posted as well, and it will reach to GL and post it in GL. I did a setup in different module so that the batch will be posted immediately in GL as well. So the message is informing that everything has been done. So since the setup is done in optional fields accordingly, I will have the same optional field defined in AR and GL module. So if I go to AR module, open the invoice generated from order entry. In detail line, I have my revenue account, for which I have the same optional field values defined here. So I will check the same in GL as well. So I will go to GL. Open the last page. Here we have the same revenue account in the list for the entry. And on that account, we should have the same optional field values. So I will open it. And we have it. So this is the most important part, to have the optional field values flow up to the GL module, so that in GL in detail, we should have this. And if everything is correct in these optional field values, then after posting that batch, the revenue and the expense deferral module can recognize it and will defer it. How we can defer that transaction? In order to do that, I will go to audit periodic processing, open the audit processing screen, and process it. Before processing, I will print a report which will show me the transactions which are ready to be processed, actually to be deferred. The report is showing only the deferred information. So I should have that my transaction details on this report. Okay. Report shows just one transaction. It starts showing from the batch entity and line number, then the reference description information, the deferral type is fiscal period, the deferral period is fiscal period, and type is thread line. From date is January 1st up to December 31st. And the deferral account that will be used when the transaction will be deferred. This account is taken from the RD options. Transaction currency amount information. So everything is correct. So I will close the report and click the process button. The message is informing that deferral batch is created and there is no batch to recognize. There is no transaction to recognize. So if the transaction is deferred, I can check that in GL. In GL, we have a new generated batch here, where the amount is taken from my revenue account. My revenue is account is 4,000. It is debited for 1,200, and my deferred revenue account is credited for the same amount. This is the deferral part. And if I go to RD module, in RD there is a special screen, transactions inquiry and transaction details screen. Well, we can see the information about this deferred transaction. To populate the grid, I'm clicking the Go button. The last transaction is the transaction that I just created. I click Details to open the transaction details screen. Here, in different tabs, I have all the information related to my transaction. On the first tab, it shows, first of all, the batch, entry, and line numbers. Then the reference description, comment information, source account, which is my revenue account, the date information, amount information on the first tab. On the second tab, it shows the deferral method, which is trade line. Deferred from and to dates, which will be used for creating a schedule. Calculation-based fiscal period, and it will be recognized to the same revenue account. Now let's go to recognition schedule. To see all this information, I will maximize the screen. Here it shows the schedule of the recognition. We have here 12 detail lines, which means that after the end of each period, the certain amount will be recognized. The recognized amount actually is 100, which is 1/12 out of the transaction amount. So on the date column, we see when each detail will be recognized. After that date, it is possible also to recognize. So in recognized column, everything is no, which means that no detail has been recognized yet. To check the recognition itself, I will run the same RD processing once more. Now I will use the other date. I will use the January 31st day in order to recognize the first detail line. So I'm changing the date and clicking the process button. Now the message is saying that nothing is available to defer, but recognition batch is created. In that batch, $100 is taken from deferred revenue account, and it was put in the sales account, $100. So similarly, after deferring different detail lines, the same amount will be taken from the deferred revenue account, and it will put in the sales account. Now let me open once more my transaction in RD module. Go to schedule tab and check the changes that happened here. As we can see on the actual recognition date column, we have populated the date, which is the same date as defined in the schedule itself. And its recognized column now is showing on that detail line as yes. So that line is recognized, which means that if I run the processing at the end of the next period, the second detail line will be recognized and so on. Actually, this is the first method that we can use to define optional fields and process the transaction. There is a second method that uses the template. To be able to do that, at least one template should be created. So I will open my template screen and show a template that I created in this sample database. Here it is in description, it is saying that 3 years, and actually clearly it defines that it will start the schedule from the transaction date and it will be ended after 3 years. 3 years minus 1 day. So I will use now the template code T as an option of field values to be able to use this template. Let's do once more the same cycle of transactions, now using the option of field values for the template. Here in the list of optional fields, I have a template of the related optional fields where I will put the value of my template. Irrespective of values defined in other optional fields, system will use the template code and template information, and it will skip the information related to other optional fields. So now I will post this order together with shipment and invoice. And run once more the RD processing. This new transaction also is deferred, and we can check it in the RD transaction inquiry. As you can see now, my schedule has more detailed lines. Actually, for 3 years, it has 36 detailed lines, and the whole amount is divided into 36. And using a template, making the work easier if optional fields. After having all these transactions, maybe you are interested to know the information about the deferral and recognition. And the program has different reports for that purposes. I will show some of them. The first one, audit log report. Today, during our meeting, I did a free processing, so I will select that only this free processing and print it. The report shows the accounts affected by RD transactions, ID processing. So one of them is sales account for 1,000. It was debited, credited as 1,200 and 100. And the second account is deferral account, deferred revenue account, which also did the same, but instead of credited, it is debited, and vice versa. If you're interested how much has been from each transaction is deferred, how much is recognized and how much is deferred, you can print the revenue flash report. All this report can be printed in summary and detailed format. I will select the same transactions. For example, the first transaction, the amount is 1,200, from which 100 is recognized already, and 1,100 remains as deferred. The second transaction has the same amount. Nothing has been recognized from this transaction yet. The next report is deferred revenue report. This report allows to define aging periods and age the coming recognitions. I define from which date it should be aged. We can cut transactions if it is required to do that. And print the report. Now, each transaction will show how much will be recognized during coming periods. For example, batch 238, which we have done during our meeting, it shows that during the 0 to 30 days, 100 amount will be recognized. The same amount will be recognized during the coming 2 periods, and over 90 days, the remaining 900 amount will be recognized. On the last transaction, we have different period. For each coming periods, only 43.43 amount will be recognized. Similarly, this much about this report. This is the main features of the application. Please note that you can use web screens as well to run revenue deferred transactions. So I will just log in web screens and check just one screen of RD module. It will take this login process. Let us wait for a while. And on the left column, we have a revenue and express deferrals model. For example, I can open the transaction details screen. And in different tabs, the same information is available here, which I can check for each transaction.